Hello. Thank you for tuning into my channel. It's time to work on an amazing new project, this rainbow trip around the world quilt. If you want to join me on this journey, please stay tuned. I am so excited to start this trip around the world quilt. If you've been following my channel, you know that I've been getting ready for this quilt. I am looking forward to seeing how it turns out. It's going to be a wonderful journey, and I'm glad that you guys will be coming along with me to create this quilt. I made a trip around the world quilt at the end of 2022 and finished it, I think, at the beginning of 2023. And I'll put a picture here. In that quilt, I took a jelly roll of blue and white fabrics, and I added some yellow, and I added a few neutrals to get the look of that quilt. I'm going to do pretty much the plan is the same, but I'm going to do a little bit of tweaking to get a little bit more variety in the blocks. In that quilt, I used width of fabric 2.5-inch strips, and I made 2 blocks from each of the strip sets that I created, and then I had enough extra strips or strip like units to make 2 extra blocks. So it was a total of 16 blocks, and most of them were from the same strip set. I only had 2 blocks in that quilt that were scrappy. So in this quilt, my goal is to make it much more scrappy. So I'm going to change what I did just a little bit, but I am going to still be using the 2.5-inch strips. I'm going to do strip sets, but I'm only going to use half strips this time instead of using the whole strip, and that way I can do some more variety. I can have more variety in my strip units, and then after I get the strip set cut, I'm going to mix everything up and pull random strip sets out or strip units out to create my blocks. So that's where it stands. I went ahead and made a practice strip set just to see what it would look like. And I was so ready to start that I went ahead and made one. I had enough fabric that I could do that, but I didn't have enough to do the whole quilt. So what I have to do first is I have some fabrics here that I have starched really nicely, and I'm going to press them and cut them and add them to my current selection of strip sets, and then we'll be ready to get some sewing done. I will put I don't know, I haven't decided if I'm going to talk through all of the cutting or if I'm just going to speed through it. We'll just kind of play it by ear as it goes, but right now I'm going to go press these fabrics and get them ready to be cut. I have 3 piles of fabric that I have pressed here on my cutting table or cutting area. I have the first is the full width of fabric strips, and you can see that here. They are varying amounts of fabric. This first one at the bottom, this pink one, it was like the first one I did, and so I ended up starching the whole thing. The rest of them, if I thought they were too big, I cut them down just a little bit, and then some of them came in these smaller widths. From each of these, I'm going to cut 2 strips, and then I will keep one for this project and then put one with my other 2.5-inch strips. My second pile is over in the corner there. Those are full fat quarters. And from the full fat quarters, I'm going to cut 2 strips each so that I can have those because I'm working with half strips anyway. This last set that I have here is pieces that are smaller than a fat quarter. And from these, I'm going to cut, I think I'm going to cut 4, and then, or maybe 3 or 4, and then cut them in half so that I can get the at least probably 21 or 22 inches that I want from them. My next step, of course, is going to be to get to cutting, and then I will keep going with this project. I have all the pieces cut now for this trip around the world. I have them here. These are the half strips and from the fat quarters, and then the full strips from the yardage or from the full width of fabric that I cut in half. And then I have these pieces. These were the ones that were not quite full widths of fabric. And I cut 3 of each. And I think I'm going to get about 48 inches. And then I'm going to cut it down to 21 and a half or 22 inches. So I'll get 2 pieces out of each one of these, the 2 pinks and the purples. So this is going to be my next step, stitching these together, and then I can put them in here and start pulling randomly for some blocks. So I'm going to, I'll show you that, and then we will, then we'll get started on the next part. It's time for some fun stuff now. I have my strip sets all cut, and it's time to start sewing them together. I went ahead before this step and just put them in a rainbow order. So I have all of my strip sets already stacked up here and pinned. So they are all ready to go. I used I'm going to use 14 half strips of fabric, or 14 half strip sets. So one is already stitched together on my design wall, and then I have all the other 13 here, and I just put them together with a pin. I randomly picked the colors, and I'm just putting them, I just pin them together so that I can start stitching. I figured that would be easier than trying to pull as I go. So have everything arranged, and I'm going to pull 2 strip sets out right now. I'll do them 2 at a time so I can chain piece, and then when I'm done with one, I'll go and press it. So I have one already started here, and then I'm going to lay the other one. I'm not even sure how I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to put this strip set over on the ironing board, so it's going to be kind of behind me. So I'll be reaching around the camera to get to it. Let me leave the water bottle up there too. So this one's going over here, and then my other strip set will stay right here. I think that's going to be the easiest. So I'm going to start by taking the first 2 strips. I'm kind of reaching around the camera right now. First 2 strips, place them right sides together and stitch down the right side using a 1/4 inch. I'm using my grandmother's dressmaker machine, and it has I guess this is a patchwork foot. It has a 1/4 inch foot already on it. So that's kind of neat. And all I'm doing is just lining up with the edge of the foot as I stitch. Uh-oh. Of course, there's a thread issue as soon as we start. So let's pull that out, get it fixed, and then we'll be back to stitching. Machine, and I'm going to finger press to the even number fabric. So my red is going to be fabric 1, which makes orange fabric 2. I hope you can see this. I'm just going to open it out, finger press it toward the orange. And I am a little bit concerned because I starched some of my fabrics, like the ones that I cut. I starched, but the pre-cuts I did not starch. So hopefully it'll still turn out and I can still get all the cuts I need. And it won't have too much shrinkage. So I don't know. You know, I maybe should have starched everything, but I didn't. We'll just see how it works out. I think this process is going to be very forgiving, so I'm good. I'm just a little bit nervous about it. All right, so for the next one I'm going to stitch, I started at this end for the first one, so I'm going to start at this end for the second one, just to hopefully eliminate bowing. I always do it this way, so I've never tried it without it. You know, I've never tried stitching from the same way the whole time because I'm afraid that it's going to bow. So each time I start at the opposite ends. Okay, and this is the first strip set. So I pulled it from the side of the machine. Now I'll pull the first one off. Again, finger pressing to the orange here. And for this set, I have to pull from the ironing board to get to the third strip. But I'm really excited about all of these strip sets. It's going to be a lot of fun. I am going to finish stitching them. I will let you see the process, but I'll kind of speed through it. When I get done with one strip set, before I press it, I will start another strip set. So this process is pretty continual. And then each time, that way I can just chain piece the whole thing. And then I won't have to worry about using my leader ender project. I just use the current project as the leaders and enders. All right, so we will speed it up here so that you can see the whole step, and I'll come back when I am done with one of the strip sets. This is my first strip set that I just finished. I have it just sitting on the ironing board here. I pressed this 3 times. I'm going to press it from the top twice, or from the top, and then I'll go through and press it on the bottom. So I'm just going to do a gentle kind of press here. And there may be some bowing on this one. I don't know. And like you can see, this first piece is a little frilly on the edge. I don't know. And I'm just I've already finger pressed the seams. And so now I'm just kind of putting everything in place. It looks pretty good. All right. And now I'm going to flip it over. And you can see where I've pressed towards. I pressed toward the even fabric, so toward the orange, the green, and the purple. And the goal for that is to make sure that the seams nest once the strips are cut and stitched back together. So hopefully that won't be an issue as I'm stitching various strip sets together. So this is my second press. Let's make sure this goes here. This pink was, I pieced that together. I'm not sure what it's going to do for the final, like once I cut everything down. But I mean, you can't really tell from the front, I don't guess. All right, so just one more press from the front. And then I'm going to stick this up on the design wall as I get the other strip sets done. I'm going to do, I'm going to do all 14, or now I have 12 left, all 12 of the strip sets, and then we can go to the next step. I've created all of my strip sets. We can see there are 12 of them up on the board right now. And then these are the last two. Here's one. And here's one. I'm very excited about these because they are each unique strip sets. Even though there's two of most of the fabrics, each strip set is unique. And so there's only going to be one block like each of these blocks. My next step is going to be to take these blocks and sew the top to the bottom into a tube. I've pulled the ones that I'm the most concerned about because my goal is I need to get 8 strip sets out of each one of these. So these, because they're kind of skewed a little bit, I'm concerned that I won't get the 8. So these are going to be the guinea pigs to see if I can get the strip sets. If I can get them out of these, then I'm confident that the rest of them will be fine. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how to line these up, and then we'll get to stitching. For this step, what I need to do is I'm just going to line these up so that they are even. I know that these ends kind of go in and out, but I'm just going to line it up so that it's not bowed. And so for each one of the strip sets, even the other ones where they're kind of even on each side, there may be a little bit hanging over because we just want it to be even and not bowed. So I'm going to go to the machine and stitch this one, and I'm going to cut this one on camera so that we can see if we can get the strip sets out, and then we'll do the rest of them away from the camera. Before I stitch this, I am going to put just a couple of pins in it. I don't normally do this, but I'm just kind of concerned about how this block is skewed a little bit. So I just want to make sure that at the top and bottom, it's lined up kind of where I want it to be, and then I'll adjust as I'm stitching. And so where I'm pinning down here is where the top of that bottom fabric is. So we're just going to take this, and same thing that we've been doing, 1/4 inch seam. Same thing for my other strip set that I'm concerned about, using that as my leader ender, or as my ender for this strip, and then we'll go cut it. So I have my strip set here ready to cut, and you can see that it's hanging over a little bit on this side and then hanging over on this side. So I'm going to line it up as best I can. I just want to make sure that I cover the selvage. So I'm cutting the selvage off on this side. I'm trying to put one of these lines on a stitch line, and I kind of have that there. And I'm going to make 2.5 inch cuts. Just based on this right here, I'm only going to be able to get 7 cuts when I was really hoping for 8, which means that I'm going to have to make 2 more strip sets. So let's go ahead and cut it. I'm using my shape cut ruler. So here's the first cut. I'm going to cut it at 2.5. 5, 7.5. When you do this, make sure that you have a nice sharp blade. Hopefully my blade is sharp enough. 10, and then 12.5, 15, and 17.5. And I was still kind of hoping that I would be able to get it off of the other ones, but I held one up to it and it still didn't quite work. So these are my strip units here that I've cut off, and you can see on this side all I have left are the selvages. I am going to put this in my scrap bin to be used somehow. Probably maybe just the larger pieces. But I don't know. I may just leave them out for now and then pull it for another time. I have some pieces from the one I cut before this as well, and I'll just put them somewhere for right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with these yet. All right, but these are my 7 here from this set. And I was going to just throw them in here randomly, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make one block out of each one of these. So I'll have 16 completely different blocks once I get everything cut. And so for now, I'm just going to pin these together. And then I have all of the other pieces up there right now. But I do have to make my other 2 strip sets. So I'm going to make the other 2 strip sets, get everything stitched and cut, and then we'll start making blocks. I have all my strip sets here cut down, or my strip units, I should say, in sections. I have them like all pinned together by colorway, and it's time to get them. I have to clip some seams and then sew the whole thing back together. I went ahead and made a practice block here so that I could test out how I wanted it to look, and also to work out any little kinks. There really isn't anything to worry about with this block. It goes together pretty simply. We just have to get everything clipped apart and then get ready to sew it back together. I'll bring you over my shoulder so that you can see that process. For my chain piecing, there are a couple of options. You can chain piece 2 blocks at a time, but this one I just did by itself, and I used some leader enders. So I think I'm going to do that with every block because I think I get the instant gratification of seeing a completed block. So let's go ahead and get one of these strip sets ready to sew into a block. These are my extra pieces. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them, but I only got 7 units out of each strip set. These are the extras. They'll go into my scrap bin or into another project. Okay, we're ready to get this started. I'm zooming in just a little bit. All right, what you need for this step is your seam ripper and the strip units, or the strips, the strip units that you're going to work with. I've already started taking this one apart, but I want to show you my thought process about this. Let me think. This isn't, okay. Oh, wait, this is the first one. Okay. So what I did is I have begun to take this apart. And what you do is you're going to, for my design, I am taking I'm taking this strip set apart at each seam and then just laying the strip out. So for this one, I took out the seam between the red and the pink, and then I did the red and the orange, and then the orange and the yellow. So next, I'm going to take it out between the yellow and the green. And so all I'm doing is using my seam ripper, and I'm just going in every 3rd or 4th stitch and running the seam ripper up there. Hopefully I can, like that. And you can take take it out this way. On this machine, the stitches are pretty small, and this is at like 4.5. So this is almost at the highest setting or the longest setting, and they're still pretty tight, but hopefully I can come up with a way to do this easily. And this way doesn't seem too bad. But what I did was I have to make sure that I'm on the seam allowance side, because it seems to be easier that way. All right. And then once you get it so far, just take the seams all the way out, and then remove the thread, and then lay out the piece. All right. And so I have 3 more to do. And so for the next one, I'm going to take out between the green and the blue. Same process. Get on that seam allowance side. And I don't know why that seems to work better. Okay, finishing up this seam. All right. Okay. And then like on this one where it's a little bit funky, I'm just going on the inside, ripping that thread, and getting it out of there. Okay. All right. And so I'm going to finish up the other 2, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this layout. As I'm taking out the seams, I'm going to kind of go backwards. So the first one is between red and pink. And then the next one is going to be between pink and purple. And then between blue and purple. And then between green and blue. Then yellow and green. And then orange and yellow. And orange and red. So you can see just by changing like the order, I can make the block go the way that I want it to go. And even if I wanted to put blue as a diagonal line, you see that I could easily do that. So right now, let's get ready to start sewing this together. This is one of the most fun parts of this project. Okay, it's time to sew this block together. The only seam that I'm really worried about is the one between the pink and the red. And so what I'm going to do for each section is I'm going to figure out which way it goes first, and then go ahead and press it in that way, finger press it. And I only got caught a couple times, but it didn't matter on the final block. And I'll show you that when we're done. So I'm going to start over here on the left, remembering that my red strip is going down the diagonal of this block. So that's kind of my point of reference. All right, so we're going to start by flipping left or right over left here with strips 1 and 2. And for this one, this seam is going to go up. And so as I stitch it, I'm going to nest it, make sure it nests. And then we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam down the side of this. And when I stitch this, I always fold the right over the left. And that seems to help me get everything together. I do have a leader here that I'm working with, and it was already on the machine, but I'm going to use the block itself as the leader ender. I'm going to chain piece the whole block as much as I can. And then when I get to a point where I can't, then I'll do my leader ender project. Block, same thing. I'm folding over row 4 over row 3. And then here I can see that let's see, this one's going to go up. And so I'm just going to kind of finger press it here. Okay. And then this one needs to go away from the purple. Yeah, or no, yeah. So it's going to go down. So I'm going to fold this one over and press it toward the red. Okay. And so you can see that already flattened it out. And then I just fold right over left and stitch. All right, so I can take this first one off, and the top unit always is always the one on the right. So, and I'm going to open this up and finger press it to the right. That's my leader ender project. Right now I'm stitching some 2.5-inch squares together for some 4 patches. So I'm just going to stick that on my design wall. All right, so I'm going to open this out and finger press it to the right. I always finger press these to the right. I'm not sure of my final layout, but this is just what I do to keep the process the same for each block. All right, and so this is the first 2 strips. Second 2 are on my machine. Now I'm going to go to the third 2. Again, just being aware of those seam allowances between pink and red. The top one needs to go, let's see, this one needs to go towards red. So I'm just going to kind of flip it over, give it a little finger press. And since some of these fabrics have already been starched, like these have all been starched, so it's pretty simple. The other on some of them is a little bit more challenging, but it's okay. We still can make it. And then this one is already going up, but I'm just going to finger press it just to get a better crease here. All right, and then same thing. Okay. All right, so this is my next set. And if you get turned around while you're putting these together, remember to make a practice block, not a practice block, but a sample block first, so that you already know which way it's supposed to go. And so if I get turned around, I'll just pull this block out and just look at it. All right, so when I get ready to stitch these 2 together, I know that there's some places that the seam allowances are not going to nest. So I'll show you those here. This very top seam, you can see that these 2 will not nest and these 2 will not nest. They're both going the same direction. It does not matter to me. I will just hold them the best that I can and hope that they work out. And it usually does kind of work itself out. If it really bothers you, you can clip the seam and make it go the way you want it to go, but it's not going to bother me. So I'm going to sew these 2 sets of 2 together. All right, next set. And these they line up pretty good most of the time. If it does not line up perfectly, it typically does not matter because you won't notice it when you put the whole thing together. Like right now, I'm noticing one that just didn't, this one right here. It's not perfect, this little intersection, but once I put the whole thing together, you won't notice it. It's not going to matter. All right, so this is the last unit, strip 7. Going on here, my seam, okay, I'm going to get caught here again. This right here, these 2 are not going to nest. They're going to butt up right against each other, and that's okay. So here we go. Let's do this one. Here is the completed block, all pressed and ready to go. I love this block and how cute it came out. I can't wait to see it once I can put it with all the other 15 blocks in the quilt. I have my original, my number 1 block right here. All right, and now I can add a second block. My next step, of course, is going to be to continue making the blocks in this quilt, and I'll come back once I have all 16 made and we can work on some layouts. I have all the blocks done for this quilt top. I am so excited about how it looks. There are a few little iffy spots, and so I want to go over those with you because I think that there are some places that I could have added a little bit more contrast. So let me show you those, and I may still be able to play around with the placement, but I have to decide my final design first. But let me show you. There are some of these reds and pinks that didn't read as red as I thought, but they give some good variety. So this houndstooth, let me see if I can zoom in on it. That houndstooth right there next to that polka dot, that could have had a little bit more contrast. I mean, I like it and I think it looks okay, but it reads kind of fuzzy. It doesn't necessarily read red. And then there's another one near the bottom right there. There's that red next to that pale pink that really doesn't delineate like I would like. And then there's the pink next to that light purple that I'm just like, that could have been a little, I could have been more strategic about that placement. But I'm just gonna, I mean, it's already stitched, and I think it's gonna be fine. It will be fine when I zoom out. You know, those, once I pointed them out, it's pretty obvious, but I think that I can play around with the placement of the blocks so that I have the light near some bolder colors. But this looks pretty good. I had envisioned having the red be the main focus of this. And so that put a pink square in the middle, but I want to play around with this to see what it might look like if I try some different layouts. So I think the first thing I want to try is just having all of them go the same direction. I'll do that here on camera, but I'll speed it up so that you can see it. We'll have all of the reds going down to the right. And let's just see what happens. The next layout that I decided to try is this hugs and kisses layout. So it's really X's and O's. So I made an X out of the red here and then the red here. And so this would be the O in the middle. And I think this is the layout that I'm going to go with, and I'm going to tell you why. I love that there are red centers. There's like a red square and a pink square and a red square right here. Second row, it's orange, red, orange, and bottom row, it's red, pink, red. I just think this is so cute. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod so that we can get kind of a closer look at it, or maybe I'll just bring the tripod closer so you can see the whole thing. Isn't that cute? I am going to, before I stitch it together, and of course you can try all different kinds of layouts if you want to. I just, as soon as I saw this and I saw how the rainbows kind of come together to make the little individual circles, I just think is so adorable. So we're going to go with that. I need to change a few things. So one thing is that my little reindeer blocks, I have 2 blocks that have reindeer. So that one, and then I think it's down here at the bottom. And I want to turn those so that the reindeer are right side up. And I think that I have space to do that in this layout. Another thing is where I have the same fabric going around the circle. So you can see the solid oranges here. I'm going to see if I can finagle those around. And then the red up here in the top corner, let me see, right there. I think we can make that a little bit redder by swapping out one of those blocks. So I'm going to, oh, and this part right here, this is too long. All of that fabric is the same, those reds. So I'm going to see if I can finagle that and make it work. And then I'll come back and show you before I stitch it together. All right, here is the final layout. I am really happy with it. None of my light fabrics are touching as they go around the individual little trips. So now it's time to stitch it, stitch all the blocks together. We're going to start by doing the top row, and then we'll just do all 4 rows, and then we'll sew the rows together. So let's get it popping. Okay, before I get ready to stitch this row, I'm going to put a pin in the top left corner of this piece to remind me that this is the top of the quilt. Let me see if you can see that on camera. So there it is. Okay, and so now I'm going to get ready to stitch it. I will go ahead and tell you that my seams are not always going to nest. So even as let me see, I hope you can see this. So sometimes they will and sometimes they won't. And so I'm just going to play each seam as it comes. I'm not going to spend too much time stressing about it. Once they're together, it won't matter, and I will just press them as flat as I can. So as I put it into or under the presser foot, I'm just going to line up these top 2. Okay. And try to match the seam as it comes. I do have a leader in here. My Jacob's Ladder Quilt project is my leader. So as I get to the seam allowance, I'm going to just try to match it as best I can. This is not designed to be stressful. This is supposed to be fun. So I'm just lining it up best I can. Not going to stress if it's not perfect. It looks like my next seam allowance I will be able to nest. So I'm just going to go ahead and nest it now. Okay. And then I'm just kind of stopping at every seam allowance. The next one I will not be able to nest. So just doing the best I can here. Okay. But somehow this one I can nest. All right, so just, I'm going to do this for each seam allowance as I sew the rows together. And then I have a small dilemma, something that I'm kind of thinking through. I did not take the time to square up these blocks before I started sewing the rows together. And if you'll see right here, there's quite a difference between my first block and my second block. So they're stitched together here and they kind of match up, but they are not the same size. So I'm going to think about that for a little bit. I've already stitched the second one. I think that I'm going to take the stitches out and then go back and square up each block just for the ease of construction. I'm a little bit concerned about what that's going to do for my matching seams, but I may have to do it this is that's almost a 1/4 inch difference. So I just want to make sure that they're square. So I think I'm going to take the stitches out and square up all the blocks to the same size and then go from there. I'll show you my squaring up process. This is not perfect by any means, but it just gets the job done. I am going to first measure my block, and this is like the 12th block that I've squared up. So hopefully this is now the technique is going to work. For most of the blocks, I have about 14 1/4 one way by 14 1/2 another way. So I'm squaring all these up to 14. And so the sides here are longer than it is tall. So I'm trying to, ideally all of these would be 2 inches when I'm done squaring up, but it doesn't really, I don't think it's going to work out that way. So I'm just going to kind of make sure that everything goes around the 14. And if I can line up one line on a line, that would be perfect. But I'm not really super stressed about that. So I have it kind of lined up here, and I'm going to cut on two sides. Hopefully my hand is not too much in the way. Okay, I'll move those bits out of the way and then flip the block around. And here I'm going to line up directly on the 14. And like, it would be really cool if my 45-degree line goes all the way through, but if it doesn't, I'm not going to stress about that, because I don't think that any of these blocks is going to be perfect. Hopefully we'll just be able to square them up. And so now I'm just checking for 14 here and then 14 on the other side. And then for all of the blocks, there's usually a larger sliver on one side, and it's usually this left side after I flipped it. But that's okay. I'm just going to cut them all to 14 inches square, and we'll see what they do. All right, so there we go. I have it squared to 14 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and take it and put it on the design wall to keep everything lined up. And that way, when I come back to it, I will know exactly where I am. I have all the blocks squared up, and to me, it looks a lot better just having this. I'm going to get ready to stitch everything. I've sewn everything together here in pairs, and I'll be honest with you, I'm happy with like the overall effect on camera, but because I had to square these blocks up, there are a few places that are not quite matched up as well as I would like. But I think the overall effect is going to be fine. But I mean, I don't know how well you can see it on camera. I'll point out just a couple of them, but really they all have these little pieces. So here, if you look closely right along here, you can see that it's not quite matched up. Especially like right here, it's really obvious. And so to me, if you look up close, this it looks a little trippy because it's kind of cattywampus. But overall, the effect is going to work. At this point, I have two options, and I think what I'm going to do, hopefully to avoid I guess to reduce the risk of getting these things even more out of whack, I'm actually going to sew 4 patches. So I'm going to put these 2 sets of 2 together, these 2, these 2, and these 2. And that way I only have to make 2 long pieces. Actually, no, I'll only have to make 1 long stitch or long seam. So what I'll do is I'll do this one and this one, and then I'll sew those together, and then the same down here, and then I'll only have to make 1 long seam, whether it's all the way across or all the way down. It doesn't matter, but it'll only be 1 long one. So I will do the 4 patches, and we can see it a little bit closer together, and then see the whole thing. I pulled 2 of these little pieces down. I want you to see how I'm pinning this. Hopefully my hands won't get in the way too much. But this is the bottom right of the quilt. And what I'm looking for to make sure I have it, that I'm pinning on the right side, is the 4 reds should meet up. And all 4 of the 4 patches are going to have the 4 reds in the middle. So I'm just going to line it up. And then I'm going to pin, of course, at the very top. Okay. Very top. And then at the bottom. And the seam that matters the most is the one in the middle where it's going to nest. And so I'm just checking it and making sure it's going to nest. And then putting a pin on either side of that seam. And this is just how I do it. There are lots of ways to do this, but pick your favorite way, whatever works for you. All right. And then I just kind of go halfway. So I'm going to do halfway here. So I'm going to pin in the green section on both things. And I know that it's not gonna match up perfectly. If there's a place that it looks like it'll match, I'll pin it, but I think at this point I'm just not gonna worry about it. And then I'm gonna pin here. See right here, I think I can get a decent match. So I'll pin it that way and just see. But there's some places that I know it's not gonna work, so I'm not gonna stress about it. All right. And I think the most important thing is that the overall effect is going to be there. So even if it's not perfect, I'm just going to let it not be perfect and be okay with that. And then same thing down here, pin halfway and halfway. And then everything will be just fine. Because for me, the most important thing is yes, the seam in the middle is important, but I also want the top and the bottom to match up. So everything at least lines like it lines up at the beginning and the end. So I can sew the other pieces to it without a lot of bother. So here's the first one. Let me see how well you can see the pins. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sets of pins going across here. I'm going to pin the rest of them, get them sewn, and then we'll see how they look. The rainbow quilt is nearly finished. This top is, it turned out really nice. I'm pretty happy with it for the most part. There were a couple places that as I stitched everything together, I ended up having a few fabrics touching. So like right here and then like right here. And there are a couple of other places, but I didn't catch it until everything was all sewn together. So it is what it is. I'm so happy with how it turned out. I don't know how well you can see from the camera where the seams don't quite match up as nice as I would like, but I noticed that the more I put it together, the better it looked and the effect is still the same. So when I look through the camera, I see a lot of purple and yellow. Let me know in the comments what colors jump out at you. It's just a really nice a nice quilt. It was 54.5 inches square before the borders. I added a 2.25-inch border around 3 of the sides. I had about a 12-inch piece of this purple. And then, so I cut it at 2.25, and I was like, maybe I can get the pieces. But I should have gone down to 2 inches and I would have been able to get all of it. But I have ordered the very last little bit. I only need this much. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. So like maybe 19 inches is what I would need to finish it out. I did go ahead and order that today. So hopefully it'll be in next week. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to call this done. Right now it's going to finish at 58 inches square. So that's what it is. Or what it's going to be with the borders. And then I have my binding picked out. I just need to prepare it. I have backing. Actually, let me show you my 2 choices for backing. I ordered both of these from Jordan Fabrics, and they were in their last chance. So this one I've had for a while. It is called Cherry Blossom, Cheery, Cherry Blossom. And it is red and it has little pink cherries on it. Super cute. And I think that there are 4 yards of this. It's either 3 or 4 yards. But then I got this one a couple weeks ago and I'm very excited about it. I think this will be perfect for the back, but it's only 3 yards. So I don't know if I have enough to fully back the quilt. It's called, let's see, Best Friends Forever. And so it's red, or they call it cherry. and it has little pink and yellow pinwheels on it. It is super cute. And I think for a little baby quilt, this fabric will be perfect on the back. I'm not sure which one is going to be best, mainly because I got to figure out how to piece this since it's just 3 yards. And this quilt is 58 inches square, which means I need a 68 inch or a 66 inch piece of backing. So I'm still trying to figure that out. I will work through it, but of course I have to wait for this last little bit of border fabric first, and then we'll be rolling. But I have really enjoyed this process, even though at the final stages it wasn't matching up like I wanted it to. I think the way to fix that for next time would either be to either starch everything or starch nothing. So for the next time I get ready for one of these, I will starch everything. Since some of this was already in pre-cut 2.5 inch strips, I didn't do that, but we'll see for next time. But still just so happy with how this turned out. Let me know in the comments what you think about it, what you think about the layout, how you think it's come together. I do need to say that this purple, I pulled purple because that's the baby's mom's favorite color. I could have pulled from any of these colors for the border, but I like this purple. I think that it brings everything together nicely. And also it is actually in the quilt in a few places. And so it can be kind of drawn out a little bit, but just really happy with it. It's a big size for a baby quilt. Can't wait to see what they think about it when they get it. And I look forward to sharing a completed quilt with you very soon. If you have any questions about what you've seen in this video, leave them in the comments below. Thumbs up this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!